I've got a pen and I've got a phone, and I can use that pen to sign executive orders. I've got a pen to take executive actions where Congress won't. Where Congress isn't acting, I'll act on my own. Wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunity for more American families, that's what I'm going to do.
President Obama calling this year a year of action, unilateral action, promising to push through legislation with or without consent from Congress. But now the House has passed two bills aimed at stopping the president from altering the meaning of laws that are already on the books. Joining us now, Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Kelly. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on this morning. So it seems to be an attempt by Congress to reassert its status as a co-equal branch of government. Is it going to work?
Well, we're going to see if it's going to work, but I think the key to it, the American people should be outraged right now. One of the most chilling things for me during the State of the Union is that actually half of the House stood up and cheered the president's statement that, listen, I will take away that power from you. I don't need you to do what I want to get done. That's chilling, and to have people stand up and cheer for that, because for years there's always been an argument between the House, the representatives, and the president. Is he abusing his executive powers? Is he pushing too hard? Both parties have felt that way, depending on who was in the president. But this one, we're looking at such an egregious overstep and almost a boasting that, listen, I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. So I think last week both Mr. Gowdy and Mr. DeSantis put through pieces that really are starting to alert the American people. The outrage should be there, and it's a righteous outrage. I don't think there's anything that's political about it or it's just be party specific. This is something that we need to do as the American people. This is what the founders intended from the very beginning. And as you know, Tucker, that clause really goes back to Pennsylvania's Constitution, then adopted whenever we did our federal Constitution.
What the founders certainly feared was members of Congress cheering the dear leader as he took their power away. And part of the way the White House has exerted its power, overexerted it, is by not enforcing laws it doesn't like. Will this legislation do anything about that?
Well, I think what it does is push the issue forward. We'll see. Now, we hear all the time, well, listen, you guys are just passing this stuff. You know it'll never get through the Senate. My goodness. If we stop trying to push things through because it's not going to go through the Senate, we might as well just shut down, because there's nothing getting through the Senate right now with Mr. Reid so worried about this next election. Our job, the House of Representatives, this is the people's house. We are supposed to be the spokespeople for the people of the United States. If we don't stand up, if we don't dig our heels in, who's going to do it, Tucker? There is no firewall other than the House of Representatives, and we have to do that.
So the president, to switch topics here, the president's new budget would cut a lot from the U.S. military. One veterans group estimates that the average Army sergeant, for example, would see about a $5,000 cut to his pay. And yet, at this exact moment that the president's saying we need to reduce military spending, jetting around the country, spending tens of millions of dollars on Air Force One, your and my airplane, raising money for the Democratic Party? How does that work?
Well, it doesn't work. And again, other than Fox, there's not a lot of people putting this message out there. I just read an article, and I thought it was really quite telling. It said we're beating our swords into food stamps. We're expanding programs at a rate that are unsustainable. And by the same time, we're reducing our military down to pre-World War II levels. We cannot weaken ourselves in a world that has grown more dangerous. My goodness, if you don't read history, the old saying, you don't read it, you're doomed to repeat it. Go back to the 30s and look what was happening in Germany at the same time. As we were starting to diminish, we were trying to appease Nazi Germany. It was growing. We were trying to somehow calm down a bully who was taking over Europe, and they will do the same thing. They will create an issue saying, well, we had to come in because this is actually our territory and we need to go in to defend it. We have never been at greater risk than we are right now. My question is, Mr. President, please put away your shopping list and start looking at the real world right now. We are in grave, grave danger. And if we cannot be, and I'm talking about the United States, if we are not the strongest country in the world, our friends and our allies will no longer be able to rely on us. Geopolitically, the consequences right now have never been greater than they have been than in the late 30s, when we saw the whole world tilt because of another part of the world that wanted to appease rather than call a bully in and say, this, it stopped here.
I think no matter where you are in foreign policy, you can agree that cutting pay to Army sergeants while we're advertising food stamps in Mexico, which we are, is an example of skewed priorities. Congressman, I appreciate your coming on this morning.
Thank you, Tucker. Thanks so much for what you're doing.